What if the world destroyed by the Great Flood wasn't primitive at all? Ancient texts, mysterious structures, and discoveries that still puzzle scientists point to a shocking possibility. The civilization that existed before the flood may have possessed knowledge far beyond what history books admit. If that's true, then humanity didn't slowly evolve from ignorance to progress. We may be rediscovering fragments of a world that was already lost once before. And the most disturbing part, the clues may have been hiding in plain sight for thousands of years. Stay with me, because what you're about to see could completely change the way you think about the ancient world. Genesis 4 gives us a glimpse of what that pre-flood world was already producing. Jubal was the father of those who play the harp and flute. Tubal-Cain forged tools of bronze and iron. Cities were being built. Music, metallurgy, agriculture, architecture, all of it existed before the flood. And that was in the early generations. By the time Noah was born, this civilization had been developing for over 1,000 years. What had it become by then? Before we go further, consider this. Genesis tells us that before the flood, human beings lived for centuries. Adam lived 930 years. Methuselah reached 969. Jared, 962. These were not myths or metaphors. These were men with almost 1,000 years to accumulate wisdom, pass down knowledge, build, create, and understand the world around them. Imagine what a single human mind could accomplish given 900 years of unbroken experience. Now multiply that across entire generations of people just like them. The Book of Enoch, one of the oldest surviving religious texts, offers details that the canonical Bible leaves in the background. It describes a world where the Watchers, fallen angelic beings, descended and transmitted extraordinary knowledge to humanity. Enoch 8:1 records that Azazel taught men to make swords, knives, shields, and breastplates, and revealed to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them. Others taught the cutting of roots, the signs of the earth, the sun, and the course of the moon. This was not primitive knowledge. This was an accelerated transfer of understanding that covered metallurgy, astronomy, herbology, and what we might today call advanced sciences. Whether you interpret the Watchers literally or symbolically, the text is communicating something important. The pre-flood world had access to knowledge that went far beyond what we assume ancient people possessed. And the physical evidence left on this earth seems to agree with that conclusion. Göbekli Tepe, located in modern-day Turkey, was discovered in the 1990s and immediately forced archaeologists to rethink everything. Dated to at least 11,600 years ago, which places it near or before the time frame many researchers associate with the flood, it features massive carved stone pillars arranged in precise circular patterns. The carvings are detailed and symbolic. The engineering is deliberate and sophisticated. And here is what makes it truly astonishing. It was intentionally buried. Someone buried it on purpose. Why would a so-called primitive people invest enormous effort into constructing something so elaborate and then bury it? Unless they were not primitive at all. Unless they were preserving it, protecting it, hiding it from something that was coming. The ancient Sumerian king list, one of the most debated archaeological documents in history, records kings who reigned before a great flood for tens of thousands of years. Scholars debate the numbers, but almost no one debates what follows. After the flood, the text says, the kingship descended from heaven again and reigns became dramatically shorter. Something changed. Something was lost. The world after the flood was measurably diminished compared to what came before. This is not just mythology. Job 38:4 records God asking, "Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding." There is a weight to that question, a reminder that the foundations of this world were set in motion by a wisdom and a power that preceded everything we know. And the civilization that existed before the flood may have been far closer to those foundations than we are today. What we are beginning to understand is that human history did not follow a simple upward line from ignorance to knowledge. There is growing evidence, archaeological, textual, and structural, that something profound and advanced existed before the great reset of the flood. A civilization that understood the stars, worked metal, raised monuments that still defy explanation, and held knowledge that took us thousands of years to rediscover. The world was not starting when Noah stepped off the ark. It was starting over. And there is a profound difference between those two things. The ruins of what came before are still out there, buried under sediment and silence, waiting to be understood. If this is already shifting the way you see the ancient world, make sure you are subscribed to this channel, because we are only just getting started, and what comes next goes even deeper. There is something that modern archaeology keeps stumbling over and struggling to explain. All across this planet, in places separated by vast oceans and thousands of miles, ancient cultures left behind structures that should not exist, not by the timeline we have been given, and not with the tools we assume they had. The more honestly we look at these sites, the harder it becomes to ignore the possibility that they are not the beginning of human achievement. They are the echo of something that came before. The pyramids of Giza are perhaps the most studied and most misunderstood structures on Earth. Engineers today, with all of our modern technology, have openly admitted that we do not fully understand how they were built. The precision involved is staggering. The Great Pyramid is aligned to true north with an accuracy of less than 1/10 of a degree. Its base is level to within just 2.1 centimeters across an area of over 53,000 square meters. The stones fit together so tightly that a razor blade cannot pass between them. This is not the work of an emerging civilization. This is the work of a civilization that had already mastered its craft. And Egypt is not alone. In Peru, the site of Puma Punku presents stone blocks cut with such geometric precision, including perfectly drilled holes and interlocking H-shaped pieces, that researchers have seriously proposed the use of advanced machining. In Lebanon, the ancient platform of Baalbek contains stones weighing over 800 tons that were quarried, transported, and placed with an accuracy that modern engineers struggle to replicate even theoretically. In Bolivia, the ruins of Tiwanaku sit at over 12,000 feet above sea level and show evidence of sophisticated hydraulic engineering, including drainage systems, canals, and raised agricultural fields that transformed a harsh climate into a productive landscape. What connects all of these sites is not just their scale or their precision, it is their age. Many of them are far older than the civilizations we credit with building them, and many of them show signs of catastrophic destruction, not gradual decay, but sudden violent disruption. Flood sediment, geological upheaval. The kind of damage consistent with exactly the event described in Genesis 7, when the fountains of the great deep were broken up and the windows of heaven were opened. Genesis 7:11 is one of the most geologically charged verses in Scripture. The fountains of the great deep, that phrase suggests something happening beneath the Earth's surface. Massive seismic and volcanic activity, the kind of event that would not just flood the surface, but reshape it entirely. And if that is what happened, then it becomes very easy to understand why so much of what existed before has been buried, shattered, or lost beneath the sea. The Book of Jubilees, another ancient text preserved among the Dead Sea Scrolls, adds something remarkable to this picture. It records that before the flood, the sons of Noah were taught the arts of healing, the wisdom of the ancients, and the secrets of the heavenly tablets, knowledge that had been passed down from the earliest generations. Jubilees 10 describes how Noah prayed that at least a portion of this knowledge would be preserved, that it would not be entirely lost when the world was destroyed. God granted that request, and certain understanding survived. This tells us something profound. The knowledge of the pre-flood world was not entirely erased. Some of it was carried through, some of it was remembered, and some of it was encoded, in stone, in symbol, in oral tradition, by the survivors and their descendants, who understood that they were living in the aftermath of a world far greater than the one they were rebuilding. That idea resonates deeply with what Ecclesiastes 1:9 declares, "There is no new thing under the sun." When Solomon wrote those words, he was not speaking idly. He was reflecting a wisdom tradition that understood history as cyclical, that recognized human beings had walked paths of knowledge before and would walk them again. What we call discovery, they called remembrance. This is why the structures scattered across our world feel so impossible to explain within the conventional narrative. Because they were not built by people who were just beginning to understand the world. They were built, or rebuilt, by people who were trying to reconstruct what had been lost, people who carried within their cultural memory the imprint of something greater, something that the flood had buried but could not completely erase. The water came. The earth was reshaped, but the knowledge, fragmented and scattered as it was, did not entirely disappear. It survived in the hands of those who stepped off the ark, in the texts that were carefully copied and preserved, and in the stones that still stand today, silently testifying to a world that history has almost forgotten. If the pre-flood civilization was truly advanced, and the evidence strongly suggests it was, then the next question becomes even more unsettling. Why was it destroyed? Not how. Why? Because the God of Scripture does not act without reason. Every judgment in the Bible carries a moral weight, a divine purpose, a response to something that had gone deeply and irreversibly wrong. And what had gone wrong before the flood was not simply that people were sinful in the ordinary sense. Something far more profound had corrupted the world. Genesis 6:5 gives us the verdict without softening it. The Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intention of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Every intention, only evil, continually. That is not a description of a struggling, imperfect people. That is a description of a civilization that had turned completely away from its divine origin, a world so saturated in corruption that restoration was no longer possible, only removal. But Genesis 6 also tells us something else. It tells us that in those days and also afterward, there were Nephilim on the earth, the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men. The Book of Enoch expands on this with striking detail. The Watchers who descended did not just bring forbidden knowledge, they corrupted the genetic and spiritual fabric of creation itself. Enoch 7 describes how the giants born from these unions consumed everything, and when human food was no longer enough, they turned against one another and against the earth itself. This was not merely moral failure. This was ontological corruption. The very structure of life on earth had been tampered with, twisted away from the design God had established in the beginning. And here is something that many people overlook. God's response in Genesis 6:7 includes not just humanity, but the animals, the creeping things, and the birds of the air. The corruption had spread beyond human civilization. The entire created order had been contaminated. The advanced knowledge that the pre-flood world possessed had not led them toward God. It had led them away from Him. And this is perhaps the most sobering lesson hidden within this entire mystery. Intelligence without reverence does not produce wisdom. Technology without righteousness does not produce flourishing. A civilization can reach extraordinary heights of understanding and still be spiritually bankrupt, still be racing toward its own destruction. Proverbs 9:10 declares it clearly. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Not intelligence, not accumulated knowledge, not technological sophistication. The beginning of wisdom is reverence before the Creator. And the pre-flood world, for all its remarkable achievements, had abandoned that foundation. The Watchers offered them power without covenant, knowledge without accountability, advancement without surrender to God, and an entire civilization accepted the trade. The Book of Jasher, referenced in both Joshua 10:13 and 2 Samuel 1:18, adds another layer to this picture. It describes how in the generations before the flood, men began to mix species, crossing animals with one another and with humans in ways that violated the created order. The boundaries God had established at creation were being systematically dismantled. What was being built was not progress, it was desecration, and so the flood was not an act of divine cruelty. It was an act of divine mercy for creation itself, a resetting of the boundaries, a purging of what had become irredeemable. Peter understood this when he wrote in 2 Peter 2:5 that God did not spare the ancient world, but preserved Noah, a herald of righteousness, with 7 others, when he brought a flood upon the world of the ungodly. Noah was not saved because he was perfect. He was saved because he still walked with God in a world that had entirely stopped doing so. What this means for us is both humbling and urgent. We live in a moment when human knowledge is expanding at a pace never seen in recorded history. Artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, nanotechnology, the merging of the biological and the digital. We are crossing thresholds that would have been unimaginable just decades ago. And the pre-flood world stands as a warning written in stone and sediment that advancement alone is never enough, that a civilization can be brilliant and still be lost. The question Scripture asks us is not whether we are intelligent enough or advanced enough. The question is whether we are still walking with God, whether, in the middle of all we are discovering and building, we are maintaining the reverence that keeps knowledge from becoming destruction. The pre-flood world lost that reverence, and the waters came. What was buried beneath the great flood was not just a civilization, it was a warning, one written into the very geology of this earth, preserved in ancient texts and encoded in structures that still defy our understanding. A warning that knowledge without God does not save. It destroys. And yet in His mercy He preserved a remnant. He always does. The pre-flood world was more advanced than we were told, but it was not wiser. And wisdom, true wisdom, begins and ends with Him. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way through. It truly means the world. If this opened something in you, please subscribe to this channel, leave a like, and drop a comment below. I would love to know your thoughts. Keep watching, because the next videos appearing on your screen right now go even deeper into the mysteries Scripture has been waiting to reveal.